There is nothing more frustrating than knowing that you are done with this chapter of your career, but have absolutely no idea what it is that you want to do next. Maybe you've tried journaling or doing the career quizzes, or maybe you've even asked ChatGPT. But if you're still feeling like nothing just quite fits, then it might be because your brain is struggling to see your future because it doesn't have any way to imagine it. So in this video, you'll learn exactly how your brain does imagine your future and your future self, along with 3 practical steps on how to rewire it. So instead of staying stuck in limbo, you can finally picture a future that feels right to you and start building your way towards it. Let's get into it. Hey, I'm Kieran Yaliswa, career strategist, coach, and creator of The Possibility Pattern. After working in tech, media, and entrepreneurship for over 15 years, I now help people who are smart but stuck realign their work and lives in ways that feel strategic, grounded, and true to them. Just this week alone, I've had 3 people say this exact line to me. All I know is that I don't want to do this, but I just have no idea what it is that I want to do instead. And I heard this from a friend of mine who recently got laid off, from a student who's a year into a 4-year degree and is desperate to change, and from a new client who's just quit her job and has absolutely no clue what it is that she wants to do next. And what keeps so many people stuck without realizing it when you're feeling like this, and I've been there too, is trying to logic your way out of the problem, thinking that it's even a problem of logic in the first place, when actually trying to figure out what you want to do in the future is less of a logic problem and more of an active imagination. A friend of mine told me something after recently starting a new job that is such a great example of this. Where she was working before was extremely toxic. Even though she was in a leadership position, she was being constantly undermined. There was a lot of competition, and she was extremely stressed and frustrated the entire time. And then she starts this new job, and she has her first executive level meeting at this new company. And she comes out and she's like, that was insane. Nobody interrupted me. The vibe felt very collaborative rather than competitive, and nobody tried to belittle her or undermine her in the meeting. To me, that sounds like bare minimum, but to her, she was shocked. She was like, wait, other people in the C-suite were actually listening to me. I actually had space to speak. And what she told me was, if I'd known it could be like this, I would have left my old place sooner. But she just didn't know because she had never seen work culture or leadership like that before. Here's the thing about imagination. Our brain doesn't conjure up ideas from nowhere. It's not making it up from scratch. It comes from memory. Your brain is pulling on what it already knows. And that's because there's a specific network of circuits in our brain called the default mode network, which is the part of our brain that is responsible for imagining our futures and imagining ourselves in the future, and builds those visualizations and simulations based on our episodic memory, which is essentially just the fragments of personal experiences that we've already had. So if your career or your life has looked the same for a long time, maybe it's the same role or it's the same company, or you've even just been doing the same thing and you've now reached a point in your life where you want something more, you want something different, but that more or different is so different from what you've experienced in your life so far, it's going to be harder to imagine because you just have less references. So let's do a little exercise right now to show you what I mean. So try this. Picture what it is that you want to have for dinner tonight. Now I'm going to guess that what you just did was that you mentally started flipping through images of food. You know, maybe it was an image of the leftovers you have in the fridge, or something that you meal prepped, or maybe that ramen spot that you love, or a TikTok recipe that you saw. But you were mentally looking through different images. But all of those images were things that you have seen before. You didn't just absolutely generate an image from complete scratch. And that's how future decisions work too. It's our default mode network that scrolls through our memories in our hippocampus and finds references, allowing us to imagine them, sort of seeing what sparks a yes for us, what feels exciting, what feels like what we want to move towards. There are so many foods out there that exist in the world where you would just never even know to consider eating them because you've literally never heard of them. So if we bring it back to career stuff, if the future that you want, when you are trying to imagine your options or imagine your future of what it is that you could potentially do, is not showing up clearly, you just can't clearly see a path or see your options, then it may be because your brain just doesn't have those files yet. And I see this all the time in sessions with coaching clients where they say that they have no idea what it is they want to do, and maybe there's a bit of a seed there, but when they try and imagine that thing, because they don't know anything really about the world of that thing, they don't know what are the opportunities, they don't know what are the roles, what companies are even doing that kind of thing, and therefore can't make the leap to be able to imagine them actually doing that thing as a career. So if this is something that you're struggling with, then here are 3 practical things that you can do to expand your imagination, to try and bring some clarity to that picture. All 3 of them have the same goal of updating the mood board that our brain is using to be able to imagine our future. So here are 3 ways that you can do that. The first one is go on more side quests. Nothing beats first-hand personal experience when it comes to encoding those memories into your brain. And if your environment, your experiences, and your routine, all of that never changes, then your imagination isn't going to either. So commit to the idea that every single week you are going to go on at least one side quest. And it can be as big or as small as you want. But the idea is that you just want to give yourself the opportunity to experience something new every single week. Maybe that's trying out a new hobby. Maybe it's just going to an event that you haven't been to before, going just to a new location. So maybe instead of going to your regular coffee shop, going to a different neighborhood, anything that breaks your routine. And if you are thinking about this from a career perspective, then the trick with the side quest is not feeling like the side quests have to be career related. You have no idea what sort of insight or connections are going to come up from those random new experiences. And so don't feel like they need to be professional or worky experiences. They can be, but it could be fun stuff. It could be going to a pottery class or like an art class, or, going to try paddle for the first time, or joining a run club. It can be absolutely anything. The key thing is to follow your curiosity. That is going to be the thing that leads you to the clarity, is your curiosity. The second thing that you can do to feed your imagination is reactivating old memories. So many of us have actually had so many great experiences that we've just completely forgotten. We tend to have a recency bias where we remember the most recent things. And so sometimes memories and experiences can be pushed so far down into our memories that it's harder for our default mode network to be able to draw on them for imagination. This is part of the reason why when I'm working with a new coaching client, one of the first things that I do is that we go through a career mapping of their past 10 years of their career, partly so that we can start to identify some of the patterns in their decisions so far, but also to resurface some of these experiences and memories and dreams that have been buried over all of this time. And what will often come up is people will say things like, oh, you know what, I used to really enjoy this, or I always thought I was going to do this, or I really wanted to do this, but I put it to the side and I shelved it because of other reasons. And bringing those memories back up to the surface helps our brain to be able to draw on those memories and those experiences as it's trying to imagine something new. This is one of the reasons why I always recommend people to have a consistent reflection practice. But in particular, if you are in a season where you are trying to imagine and create and visualize a new chapter for yourself, then reflection is going to be so important. So here's something that you can try. Write down 3 moments of the past year when you felt the most alive, you felt the most proud of yourself, or you felt the most fully yourself, or you just felt like you were being authentically you and feeling really energized in that. What do you notice about the kinds of things that you wrote down? And if there's a thread that connects the 3 of them together. And the final one is borrow other people's memories. You don't personally have to experience something for it to be in your memory. Stories are also so sticky and create memory files too. Podcasts, conversations with other people, books, TikToks, newsletters, whatever you personally enjoy and the ways in which that you enjoy learning, those can all be fragments that feed our imagination. So what I suggest with this one is create a bit of a curiosity curriculum for yourself. So just like the side quest, with this one, we want to follow our curiosity. So if you are curious about starting a business or moving into a different type of role in the industry that you're already in, what you want to do is tap into the stories of that world. You want to get closer to those worlds, to the things that you're curious about. So create a watch list on YouTube, subscribe to a new podcast, or listen to some audiobooks of people who are in that world. Read more books in that world. Attend conferences, sign up to a workshop, go to a lecture. Make a list of people in your life who are in that world or who have some proximity to it that you can have conversations with and ask them about it to get more of an understanding of that world. All of it is about discovery. It's about data gathering. It's about trying to explore your way towards clarity. Once you realize this insight, you may notice how many of your decisions in the past or ways that you've got clarity before have been in this way. Actually, I realized that this is how I ended up moving to Johannesburg when I moved to South Africa, because I had never seen myself living in Johannesburg. And whenever I'd visited family there before, we just kind of went from mall to suburb. That's all I really knew about Joburg and didn't really love it. It wasn't my vibe. And then one holiday, my cousin took me out to lunch in this neighborhood that I'd never been to before. For the first time, completely unexpectedly, I was starting to picture myself living there because this neighborhood was totally my vibe, and seeing the whole lifestyle around it and everything, I could actually see myself there. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. If I could live here, then I could potentially see myself living in Joburg. The energy, the people, the vibe, something about it just clicked for me. And so when I started thinking about leaving London about a year later and thinking about, okay, where does it make sense for me to go? Where do I want to go? Joburg was top of that list because I'd had that experience, and I ended up moving there a year later. So if you feel stuck in limbo, but also just feeling so desperate to figure out what it is that you want to do next and just feel like that clarity just feels so foggy, then trust me, start with this. Start with feeding your imagination, start with your curiosity, and the clarity will come. Take all of that energy that you are putting into trying to force clarity and use it instead to follow your curiosity. It's more likely going to come from a memory that you haven't made yet, or a conversation that you haven't had yet, or a story that you haven't heard yet. So start there, start with feeding your imagination. And the good thing about this as well is that it takes the whole pressure of needing to know the whole map up front. Your next smallest step is just your next side quest. There we go. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions about anything that we've talked about today. Let me know what makes it onto your curiosity curriculum, and happy side questing. I'll see you in the next one.